don't make this mistake because it's a really common mistake. And it's probably one of the biggest mistakes that we see people make.
Yep.
And it's feeling like it's not working. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the key word here is feeling, right? Because sometimes things aren't working. And if things aren't working, then what do we say? It's like the definition of insanity is you keep on trying the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So yeah, if something's not working, then something needs to change, right? But if the only reason that you think it's not working is because you feel like it's not working, then we have a different issue. A very different issue.
Yeah, I love it. Expand. Please explain.
Well, so I'll tell a story of a recent conversation with a client who will remain nameless in case she happens to listen to this. But she did all the right things, actually. So, and she's, to be clear, great. We love her. Super switched on. She's made some amazing progress. But she felt like she wasn't making progress. She'd been stressed at work. She probably hasn't been as consistent as she wanted to be, or she felt like she should be. Again, that word, feelings. So she said, look, let's catch up. Let's do a review. We'll do some measurements, etc. So we did some body measurements with her. And traditionally, she's not been someone who likes to weigh herself. It's been a bit of a trigger for her. And, in her mind, the scale potentially showing an increase in weight is so much worse than the scale showing a decrease in weight. So it's just never been worth it. But anyway, she felt like she hadn't made any progress. The measurements were so good that I said, I think we're safe here. I think we should step on the scales. I know it's a big decision, but we should step on the scales. And to cut to the end of the story, she dropped more than 12 kilos since the last time she weighed herself. Right, so that's a pretty significant amount of weight, right?
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty life-changing.
Yeah, that's a big
change.
That's a big number.
Yeah,
we're in double figures there. And this is somebody who felt like nothing was working and felt like they weren't making progress. But the issue had kind of become, she'd been feeling this way, but when I asked, the reason that she felt like she wasn't making progress was just because she felt like she wasn't making progress. There was no real indicators that she wasn't making progress. And as we dug into it, it's like, well, have you seen improvements in your workouts? Yes, like she had, right? And then obviously we know that she had seen improvements in her weight going down and in her measurements. She just hadn't done them. And if you don't know, then you don't really know.
That's it. Yeah. And then you sort of get into this vicious, and it's very common. You get into this vicious cycle of feeling like, well, I'm putting in the effort, but again, keyword, I feel like I'm not seeing the results or I'm not getting the return. But without you actually knowing from an objective point of view, you have subjective. It's like you can get a feel and all that sort of stuff. That's important. We're not saying we shouldn't acknowledge that. But the numbers don't lie.
No, not at all.
And I think it's really important on getting clear on is what the goal is, what the focus is. And then, okay, what's important about that? Because then that's that motivation. So if there are times where you're feeling a little bit unmotivated, it's like you just, remind yourself, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. But then having a measure that matters to reinforce that, I'm on the right track. The behaviors that I'm doing what I need to do. And then it's a matter of just continuing doing that. The good thing though is even if things actually stagnate, then it's like, cool, maybe we're not doing anything wrong. We just actually need more time of doing the thing to get the result that we're after. Or it's like, great, we've learned, okay, this isn't working. What else can we do? How can we flip the script?
Absolutely. And I think it's funny. Everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people are familiar with the SMART principle, right? The SMART framework for setting goals. Well, the second letter, M, like what's that stand for?
Measurable.
right? And you go that with, oh yeah, everyone knows, right? But if you're not following it, well, knowing it doesn't do much good. So to follow on from what Carl was saying there, like you do need that reinforcement. And it's not us saying that, because I'm the last person that's going to force somebody to weigh themselves.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
At the same time, if your goal is to lose weight, we do need to have some way, shape, or form of knowing if you are losing weight. Because I get it that, if you've traditionally had a really poor relationship with the scales, right, that you don't want to weigh yourself because it can absolutely stress you out, it can cause you to feel really anxious, etc. But so can feeling like nothing's working and that you're doomed and you're never going to be able to lose any weight, and what's the point in doing anything, right? And I'm literally just voicing what people have said to me over the years, right? So it's a really it's not an easy thing, but it is a necessary step. And it doesn't have to be the scales, by the way. There are other ways, and that's why we like to do measurements and things for people, because, it's having somebody else do it for you, I think is important. Somebody go, okay, cool, they're going to analyze this for me, etc. It's not you doing it by yourself at home, potentially getting a little bit worked up on the numbers, because as much as the numbers are really important, they don't really matter. They matter in the sense that it shows us if you're making progress towards the goal, but they're not the goal themselves, right? And, I say to people all the time, I'm like, listen, nobody out in the street can tell how much you weigh. And you know what? Nobody cares how much you weigh. They care about how much they weigh. They're too busy worrying about themselves to care about you. So it's not something that really matters in that sense. But it is important that we know, from our point of view, cool, is a plan working? But more importantly, that from your point of view, that your efforts are paying off.